In this video, I'm gonna show you an incredible chess battle, 97 moves between two chessbots on chess.com, Mittens against Gotham Chess. Watch this video till the very end and I guarantee it's gonna blow your mind. So, the game started with e4, e5, Mittens plays with the white pieces, Gotham Chess with black, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, I have Ruy Lopez on the board, a6, the main line, bishop a4, knight f6, attacking the pawn, e4, but, you know, Mittens, it says, I don't care about the pawns, I just want to develop my pieces and crush you as fast as possible. Gotham says, okay, I don't care, I'm gonna just grab my pawn, very helpful. To me, thank you very much. Now wait a second, rook e1 comes, now this rook is standing right in the center of the board, keeping an eye on the king on e8, directly attacking the knight and of course the e5 pawn which stands behind it. Knight c5, attacking the knight, attacking the bishop with the knight here, and well, bishop takes c6 should be played here, and then this pawn on e5 could be recaptured, threatening incredible amount of discovered checks here, dangerous discovered checks, and of course that can't be happen. And bishop e7, covering it, preparing for castles. Now Mittens plays d4, attacking this knight on c5, grabbing some space in the center. Gotham answers with knight e6, bishop goes to e3, defending this pawn on d4, castles. So the position looks normal so far, but of course black has this difficulty with the bishop on c8, which is now closed, and that is why white's position is more pleasant. c4, grabbing even more space in the center. This knight on e5 is just beautiful. So that is why black plays f6, trying to push it back. But the problem is that, well, now there are gonna be some weaknesses along the light squares and in general in the black's camp. But at least, well, this knight is not that huge, not that powerful on e5 in the center of the board. And up to this moment, it's still a theoretical position. Here, black played f5 in most of the games, trying to be as active as possible and just create an attack on the king side and trying to create some threats for the white's king and eventually trying to get a checkmate. But Gotham says, no, I want to play on the queen side, I want to play b5, and I want to destroy your beautiful center here. White says, okay, knight c3, no problem, do whatever you want, I'm just gonna develop all of my pieces, all in the center, placed nicely, do your worst. And Gotham chessbot decides, well, I want to take it, I want to take the pawn on c4, triple my pawns, and enjoy my extra pawn here. And yeah, honestly, I would never do something like that, because look at this pawn structure, it's just horrible now. How are you supposed to play like that? Sorry, Gotham, but it's not the way people play chess. Okay, queen into, Mittens says, no problem, I'm gonna just pick it up, I'm gonna enjoy this horrible pawn structure, and I'm gonna attack it, and I'm gonna crush you. Bishop d7, just developing your pieces. Queen goes to c4, now creating this unpleasant beam, which, yeah, one day could be a real problem for black. Queen b8, trying to activate the queen here along the b file. Rook e2, just protecting the pawn and at the same time doubling the rooks along the e file. That is, of course, dangerous for black. Bishop d6, removing this piece from the e file and also making sure that this one is safe. There is still a problem with this knight zone. So Mittens doubles the rooks along the e file and, well, now creating some huge threats here over this file especially. It's very bad news for the knights. That is why Gotham chessbot decides that it's time to trade the queens. Without the queens it shouldn't be that bad and he would be able to survive. But Mittens says, no, I want to save the queens on the board, I want to have some fun, I want to have a mess. That's, as we all know, what Mittens likes the most. Rook e8, trying to finally stabilize the position a little bit, make sure that nothing horrible happens with this knight on e6. Knight e2, there will be trap maneuvering, because always if you have this pawn standing here, it's not allowing the knight to jump forward. So this knight is basically doing nothing here except for maybe defending this pawn on d4, but well, there are enough defenders even without this knight, so Mittens decides to find a better square for the knight. Rook d8, finally you can see that black finished his development and the position seems to be more or less stable, but still, of course, this pawn structure is horrible, still horrible, and it's not going to be better anytime soon. This pawn on a6 is weak and vulnerable and can be captured at some point. Mittens starts with a3, just attacking this queen, and it's not really a good idea to take on b2 here because you run into some discover attacks, and also you can just lose your queen after rook b1 here, because the only move is queen takes a3, now the knight is coming to c4, and boom, the queen has no moves to go, so it's gonna be lost. At least the bishop has to be lost here, and then the queen can escape, but of course the position is completely winning for white here. So the pawn on b2 can be captured. Instead, black played queen b6, but it just literally says, come on, try to win me with this discover attack, and I'm just all the way ready for it. Do your worst. And well, Mittens says, you know what, you can't play like that. It's just not the way people play chess. I'm gonna destroy you here with this discover attack. So he played d5 with a double attack, attacking both the queen and the knight. And I mean, what do you do here? Gotham played knight f4, saying, I don't care that my queen is hanging, I'm gonna attack your queen, and that should be enough to compensate this threat. Well, he might be true. If you take on b6, it's really not that great for white, because knight takes d3, now it's a double attack, the bishop and the rook are hanging, and it's really a very bad, probably lost position for white. But there is bishop takes f4, just exchanging this powerful knight, and afterwards this knight is coming to c4, very active with the tempo, attacking the queen, and white is of course still much better. Queen goes to c5, trying to find a good spot, but once again it's going to be attacked with a move b4 with the tempo, getting more space on the queen side and making sure that those pawns, those horrible pawns, are not going to be moving. Queen goes all the way back to f8, very passive, but of course black is trying to survive here, at least having this pair of bishops and, well, centrally placed rooks. g3, another tempo move. This time it's creating a square for the king to go, just in case, and kicking the bishop away. Rook takes e2, trying to exchange some pieces, because if you are defending, it's always great to exchange some pieces, so it's simpler for you to deal with all of the threats. And also, if you don't have enough space for all of your pieces, then the more pieces you exchange, the simpler it gets, because you don't have that many pieces and don't feel the space problem that much. Rook takes back and bishop d6. Knight takes d6, exchanging the knight for a bishop and also opening the way once again for this queen to finally take the a6 pawn. And that is what Mittens here does, saying, okay, now I'm gonna just have an extra pawn and I'm gonna convert my advantage and win easily. But I can tell you at this point, it's not how it happened. Let's see, bishop g4, a move with the tempo, trying to activate a lot of pieces here. Basically, if black just passively goes somewhere, black is ready to recapture on d5, and now the queen is protected by the rook, and in the end of the day the d5 pawn will be also protected. So this rook has to go somewhere actively, and Mittens goes to e4, attacking the bishop, so not allowing black just to take on d5. Bishop f5, and yet another move with the tempo, rook f4, once again not allowing to just recapture this pawn. Bishop goes back to d7, and now queen to c4, using the fact that the rook is not attacking the pawn on d5 anymore, and preparing some discover attacks here. Gotham played bishop e8, preparing for this d takes c move, because in this case they're going to be a bishop f7 with a tempo, the D file is going to be opened, and well, I believe he hoped to get some activity here. Instead, Mittens plays knight e4 first, attacking this queen and improving his knight's position. Queen goes to e5, and now instead of taking on c6, Mittens actually plays d6 and gives a check, but this pawn might eventually go to c7. Still, the bishop goes to f7 with a tempo. Of course, if you just move your king away, that would be too passive. You can allow that. And now, boom, queen goes to c6, taking this pawn, and you have, after c takes d, a beautiful pair of passers here. Of course, it seems to be incredibly dangerous, but at least black has stabilized the position a little bit. Now the king is more or less safe, and well, there is a passer as well here. So Mittens plays queen b6 with a double attack, basically, because he's still keeping an eye on this pawn, and if rook goes somewhere, it can't really go to d7, because, well, there's gonna be a queen b8 check, and it's really uncomfortable here along the back rank. So Gotham played rook to a8, attacking this pawn, but giving up this d6 pawn, which is of course also important. So Mittens decided, okay, that's good enough for me, I'm gonna just take it. And instead of taking here immediately on a3 or exchanging the queens and taking on a3, Gotham decided to play bishop d5 first, because this bishop is really beautiful here. It controls the long diagonal, and at some point it might even create some checkmate threats. a4 doesn't really help because the pawn is still hanging. So at this point, Gotham decided to finally exchange the queens and grab the pawn back, and basically threatening a checkmate here. So king f1 needed to be played. Still, we have an endgame now where there is an extra pawn for white, but black has this bishop, and bishop is usually stronger than the knight when there are pawns on both sides of the board. But of course, a pawn is a pawn, so white is better here. The question is, would white be able to convert this pawn? Let's see. There's an endgame, I would say, is incredibly instructive, and we all can learn something from it. Rook a6 has been played to push this knight somewhere. Knight goes to b5, and now boom, g5, attacking this rook, not worrying that the f6 pawn would be a weakness, because, well, for now it's protected, and afterwards the king might come and defend it again. But what's now important is to push this rook away and also get some space to place the bishop on f3. Rook goes to d4, now bishop f3, threatening checkmate in 2 with rook a1. Of course, Mittens has to do something about it, so king goes to e1, making sure that there is a nice spot on d2 for the king to go. Rook e6 check, though. So now if the king goes back, then at least there is a way to go back, and that's going to be a move repetition. But of course, that's not what Mittens wants, and also, well, this position is better for white, so he decides to play for a win. The only way to do that is to play king to d2, allowing this rook to e2 check. King goes to d3, and basically this pawn on f2 is lost. There is no way to save it, and Gotham could have taken it immediately, but he decided to make sure that this bishop is very safe on f3, because it's very, very important bishop, basically cementing the whole position, and afterwards he could still take the pawn on f2. Rook d8 check, king g7, and knight d6. So you could see that Mittens is trying to construct some kind of a net here, maybe creating some problems for the king, or just pushing this pawn all the way through and promote it. Gotham decided to just take the f2 pawn, and yeah, why not? We are equal in terms of the material now. This h2 pawn is hanging, and we still have time to go back to stop this pawn. And in the worst case scenario, there is a bishop here which controls the key b7 square, and it might sacrifice itself for this pawn. And here the position is equal. Black has actually nothing to worry about in this position except for this pawn. But I would definitely, if I were in black's shoes, I would definitely take the h2 pawn, because I still have a chance to get back to this pawn. For example, b6, I can play rook b2, and if b7, I can capture it, rook d7, okay, I give up my bishop, Well, if rook takes, then it's a very simple draw, just, I don't know, h5, king g5, h4, and, well, 3 against 1, no problem. If knight takes, then we could even play rook b3 and just take this third pawn, and it's an immediate draw. Maybe it's even white who should be a little bit careful not to lose to these 3 passes. So I would definitely take another pawn here, and then if white tries to stop the rook from coming to b file, we always have some squares here, rook h1 for example, and we still get to this b1 square. But instead black played rook b2, which is objectively just as good as rook takes h2, but I find practically there is a huge difference, because still there are 2 pawns here, so in case of some bishop sacrifices, it's not going to be enough for black to make a draw here. So even though objectively it's still equal, I would say that in such a position it's very important to eliminate as many pawns as possible, because with every pawn going off the board, you have more chances to make a draw, to secure a draw. King went to c3 and rook to b1, and now, yeah, there is no way to take this pawn anymore. King c2, rook b4, and white is trying to make progress with this pawn. Of course, this pawn is the only way for white to win the game. Bishop e2, black is trying to eliminate this pawn, but like I said, here it's 2 against 3, so there is no way to sacrifice the bishop, it would never be enough. So black can do that. Instead, he just basically going back and forth, but it's dangerous, because white is making some progress. White is moving the pawn forward, white is moving the king forward, all of the pieces are active, so it's a very dangerous position for black. Yeah, now white is remaneuvering this rook to d7, controlling the 7th rank, and potentially preparing for the b7 move. Right now it's not possible because black covers it twice, but after some remaneuvering it will definitely be possible for white to do it. Rook d6, now protecting this pawn, and the knight is free to go, the knight can find a better spot to go. King goes to b4, now you could see that this rook is kind of passive there, it's not controlling the b file anymore, which is the most important thing, and at some point this pawn is going to run forward. Rook goes to d4, knight to b5, already, you know, creating some interesting ideas here. And with the black, it's very inconvenient to play. You always have to look for an incredible amount of threats. And once again, because of the fact that black didn't take this pawn here, there is no way to sacrifice the bishop. So yeah, you always have a lot of stuff to worry about. Knight c3, bishop e4 back, king goes to c5. Now all of white pieces are active. Rook to d3, finally activating this rook, but yeah, still not that simple for black to control everything. Bishop b7, very important move here, because this king is going to a6, and then b7 is ready to go. So either bishop b7 to stop it, or another way could have been this move rook d2, because now king a6 is not possible because of rook a2, and white actually loses. And otherwise, yeah, maybe we are finally would be able to capture this h2 pawn at the right moment, because, well, there are some problems as well. The bishop b7 has been played, and now Mittens decided, okay, I like this endgame knight against bishop with this passer on b6, so I'm gonna just trade the rooks, and I'm gonna jump around with my knight and win the game. Let's see whether it was the right plan to do. h5, king b5, king d6, not allowing this king to occupy this very important c5 square. Knight f5 check, king goes to f5, and once again you see that it's very important that there is an h2 pawn, because if there wouldn't be, it would be basically just an immediate draw, or maybe once again it's white who would need to be a little bit careful not to allow any pawns to promote. But with this pawn on h2, it's never really a problem. Any h2 or any h4 or f4 could be met with the capture, and afterwards there is still this pawn to control the key g3 square. So knight e3, this knight is going all the way to a5, to attack the bishop and trying to promote the pawn, and black goes very passively just back there to c8, and doesn't feel that great. But now Mittens makes an incredible mistake here. It just captures the bishop, saying that, well, the pawn endgame is easily winning thanks to this passer. But it's actually not true. This position is dead draw now. After king takes b7, it's 0-0-0, and black can just make a draw here after king c5. Try to pause the video for a second and find this for yourself. It's gonna be a very useful exercise. So yeah, please go for it. So I hope you have managed to find the right move. There is only one move which makes a draw here for black, and this move is f5. The point is very simple. We need to make some use out of these pawns before this king is coming, because afterwards the king will just take all of the pawns, and that would be a completely losing position. So let's take a look. If king goes to d5, actually white can even get in trouble because of this move f4. And now seems like it's completely lost for white, because, well, if you allow this pawn to go to f3, the game is over. If you take it, then h4 and f5. The point is, if you try to stop the pawn with your king, then once again there is only one winning move here for black. So try to pause the video and find it, because it's a little bit tricky. Okay, I hope you have managed to do that. g3 actually doesn't win the game, it actually loses the game, because we just take, and after h3 we have this move king f3, and we are in time to cage the pawn. But h3 on the other hand just wins the game, because there is no way to stop this h pawn with the king. The king is not coming to s3 in time. It can go to e3, but then g3, and if takes h2, this pawn promotes. If you don't take, then, well, still I take on h2 and the pawn still promotes. And finally, if you play f5, still this pawn is not fast enough, g3, and black is going to be the first one to promote the queen with a check. So that means that here king d5 is not a move for white. King d4 therefore must be played to make sure that the king is in time to stop all of the pawn moves. But still, f4 makes a draw here. This time it doesn't win, but it's still enough to make a draw. Once again, you can't allow this pawn to go to f3, so white must take it. And then there are actually even two ways to make a draw. You can either take on b6 or to play h4 immediately. And remember the problem here: if you play king e4, it's losing due to h3. But the difference is here that the king is not on d5 but on d4, so it can go to e3 and actually be in time to save everything. So here h3 doesn't win, in fact it just loses because the king is in time to pick up all of the pawns. g3 once again just loses the game because the king is in time. But there is a king takes b6, and you can't really get close to the pawns this way, and if you play f5, then the black's king would be close enough to make a draw. King f4, now the only move to make a draw, you need to exchange as many pawns as possible, because with only one pawn on the board, if your king is close enough, it's a draw. With two pawns, well, you always lose. So at this exact moment, black has to play g3, and then, well, if you play h3, then it's a protected passer and it's just gonna promote, so you have to stop it, you have to take it. But then it's just a draw here in this pawn endgame, because king goes to e7, and it is just in time to stop white's king from going forward. Of course, you know that after king f8 it's a draw, because there is no way to promote the pawn and it's a stalemate here. So actually, Gotham could have just easily made a draw here after f5. But incredibly surprisingly, to me at least, he didn't play this move f5. He played king b8, which is incredibly passive, and like, you can never save a game like that. You don't make any progress, and of course this king will just come and get all of the pawns, and the game would be over, and that's exactly what happens in the game. So, come on, Gotham, why would you do that? Why don't you go forward and try to save the game? Even if you lose, at least you tried. This way, you don't try it at all. So, yeah, I was very disappointed at this point, and the rest of the game is pretty simple. White's king just came and won all of the pawns. There is nothing to talk about, and with 2 pawns you can never stop it, and eventually White just checkmated. So that's it, but I hope you enjoyed it, because it's an incredibly instructive game all the way through, especially the endgame, this knight against bishop. And yeah, so 2 moments which I would underline here: this h2 pawn, which black could have taken with a rook, and then I would say it would be relatively easy to secure a draw, and afterwards, in the very end, in the pawn's endgame, there was a real simple way to make a draw. Simple because there is no other possibility to play. Like, if you don't go back to b8 with the king, there is no other way to make a move. So f5, f4, and you just do the moves that you have to do, and it's a draw. But unfortunately, Gotham chessboard missed his chance to make a draw with Mittens. I hope, once again, you enjoyed the video. I hope it was instructive for you. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you would like to watch more educational and entertaining videos on this channel, and hope to see you again.